Yeah. So today I'll be starting Python, and yeah. So today what I'll be covering is I'll be just covering about the introduction. Okay, what is it? Why it is needed? How we can use it? Where? What are the plus points and all those things? And how do we do the initial setup? How do I make my system ready to program in Python? Okay. So first thing is it is a very popular language nowadays, and uh, it is like almost everyone is talking about Python everywhere. Okay, it has a lot of use cases, like people are going for some kind of some people are going for games, Python games, some people are going for data science, some people are going even for desktop applications. Python is needed. Okay, there are a lot of libraries in Python that can be used for different things, like machine learning, AI. Also Python is needed. Okay, but why is it needed in so many places? So the thing is, these domains like AI, ML, games, and then data science, these things require a lot of coding, a lot of programming steps are involved in all these things. But what is happening with Python then? That programming can be done with other languages as well. Then why only Python? It is because it is true that it can be done with any other language, but the thing is, what happens with Python is, if we need to write very much less in Python as compared to other languages. Let's say we have Java or JavaScript or maybe C++, where we need to do, in order to do a small thing, I am writing, let's say, 7 lines or 5 lines. But in Python, that kind of things can be done in 2 to 3 lines. Okay, it is not something like that that Python is doing something great. No, Python is doing the same thing that is done by other languages. Okay, so what happens here is we are writing less code for a big operation or a big calculation. So in that way, when we are going with data science and all, we need to do big mathematical calculations. Hmm? When I'm going for Python games, let's say, we have to do big calculations about the mouse pointer position, about the size of the target, and many things are there. So these things will involve a lot of big calculations and operations, which if I write with other languages will be very big. The code will be very big. So the same thing, okay, if I do with Python, the code becomes less. Why? That again, we have a question called why. Question why? Why the code is less? Because in Python, Python is a little bit new language. It came in around 90s, but now it is very much advanced and developed. What is happening here is we have shortcut methods or functions to do big operations, which are not there in other languages like Java, JavaScript, and all those things. Okay, so that's why what happens is when I want to do a big thing, I can write it in less code. But there is a big but here. What is it? When I am writing a small line of code which is actually doing big operation, right? So ultimately, it is putting stress on the processor or the system. When I'm saying in one line, please sort this array and print them in the console. When I'm doing everything in one line, what is happening? Or else I am saying that please sort this array according to the age of the person. Then what I'm doing? I'm doing all these things in one line. So ultimately, to execute this line, the processor has to do a lot of things. It has to sort, it has to check what is the age, then it will sort. So it will be do in the back side, in the back end, it will be doing a lot of operations. Actually, it is not like if it is one line of code, so it will complete it very fast. It is not like that. So what happens is Python in Python you may write less code, but that doesn't mean that it is fast. Many people may say that Python is fast. No, it is not like that. If you Google, if you read some articles about some research papers and all those things where they people are comparing the speed of programming languages, you will see that Python is too much slower than C, C++, Java, C Sharp, and JavaScript. Okay, it is slower than many languages. So it tells us that Python is not fast, but in Python we need to write less. That is the only plus point. Okay, so that's why, because it requires less coding, it can be used in so many applications. Okay, fine. Now let me go to, so we have seen the plus and minus points. Now let us see what kind of language this Python is. Okay, so if
Hi,
we,
one question over this,
yes,
like let's
yes,
say when we say that this Python is not that much means as compared to other languages. If we say Java and other programming
yes,
languages, if it is not so fast, then why it is being preferred over that, over the other
yes,
programming languages?
yes.
Only
So that,
because of the simplicity of
yes,
writing it, less code, and how efficient it is now as we see that world is moving towards the AI, ML, and all that stuff, right? So is
yeah.
it like only Python is getting used over there, or the other programming languages are also being used for that?
Yeah, so in your question, there are 2 points, right? First thing
Mm-hmm.
you asked is about is it the only reason that Python we need to write less? Yes, actually, that is the only reason. Okay, so I'm the next point I was about to say something, but you stopped me. But very good, you stopped me. In the next point, what I was going to say, there you will come to know that there is another point where Python has another plus point. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
let us first discuss what we have discussed till now. Here we have seen that the code is less. That is one plus point,
Okay.
because anyone can learn it. To do a big operation in Java, you need to know so many concepts. Whether you try to do it in Java, C++, or JavaScript, you need to know so many concepts, and then you will apply your knowledge to do a big operation. But Python is giving us directly one single method which will do all these things without, you don't need to worry about what is happening inside. Okay, so Python can be learned by anyone. Even nowadays even school students are learning Python, isn't it? So that is one plus point. uh, then next point is you asked about the this is about simplicity, right? Now the next thing is you were asking about this AI, ML, and all those things, data science. Are people using other languages or not? Okay, again, again their first point is we need to write less code because there the mathematical calculations are very huge. Okay, huh, in many places C is used, C or C++ may be used. Okay, but not that much. People are now shifting towards Python slowly, because again in C++, what is the plus point? It is, C is the fastest language in the whole world. There is no other language faster than C. Okay, so in that scenario C is being used in some places, but the other languages like apart from C, most of the things are done using Python only. But let's say JavaScript, for AI/ML, there JavaScript has created one library called TensorFlow.js. Okay, that TensorFlow.js is used in AI/ML purpose, but again it is to be installed in Python, and it will run along with Python actually. Okay, so when I run two languages together, first thing is these two languages cannot understand each other, isn't it? I cannot write JavaScript inside Python and Python inside JavaScript. What will be happening here is when I install the TensorFlow JS, it will be installed on top of Python. And whenever suppose I don't know Python, then how do I work on AI/ML? If I know Python, and working on AI/ML will be very easy. But let's say I know only JavaScript and I want to work on AI/ML. Ultimately, I need the logic, not the language, isn't it? So then I can go for TensorFlow JS. I know JavaScript, I can work on TensorFlow JS, and all the AI/ML work will be done with that. But internally, what will happen? That TensorFlow JS is running in a Python environment, isn't it? So what will Python do? Whatever code I write in JavaScript in TensorFlow, Python will convert this TensorFlow JS code into Python, and then in the backend ultimately Python will be running. Okay, so if we see, only Python is ruling those worlds now. Okay, apart from that C++ is there, but again what happens is the code complexity becomes too much for writing. The language may be fast, C++ may be faster, but from user point of view, from the learner point of view, it becomes difficult. Okay, so that is the reason these things are happening. Okay, now this, I hope I have cleared your doubt. Your doubt will be clear with one more thing now. Next I'll be talking about the type of language. Okay, so what happens here is there are different types of language nowadays: C++, Java, JavaScript, Python. So many languages are there. So now some of these languages are known as compiled languages, some languages are known as interpreted languages or scripting language. Okay, so what is the difference in between these two is that, let's say, let us take C++. let me uh, let me open Paint just for the time being. I'll open Paint and I'll try to write something here. So so let me take some languages. So here I am having, let me first explain about compiled languages, what they are doing. Okay, in compiled languages examples are C, then C++, then Java. Okay, like that, so many other C sharp. hmm? So many languages will be there. Okay, fine. So these are the three most common languages we have seen. So what is happening in these compiled languages is that we write the code. Okay, we will write the code. We'll write the code in a file, and some code will be there inside this file. I'll write some code, right? So some code will be there. Now this code is known as source code. This code is known as source code. Whatever code I write in C, C++ or Java, this is known as source code. But this code, when I write, it is written in some I will write the language in some words, na, like there will be a for loop or if else or something. These are just English words. These code, where will I run? I will run this code in my system, in my laptop, in my desktop, in my mobile, somewhere. So our system cannot understand this source code. Okay, I cannot directly run this code. So what I need is, I need a compiler. I need a compiler to compile this code. Okay, so this compiler needs to, we need to pass the our source code to the compiler, so that what will happen, this compiler will convert this code into some other language which can be understood by our laptop or system. Because what happens with our system is, our system can only understand language which is written in zeros and ones, binary code. Okay, so this English language, whatever I am writing, if for x equal to 10 or some kind of things, our system cannot understand that. So this compiler, what it will do, it will convert this source code into a code which is understood by our system. So in our programming books, we'll see that they convert, compilers will convert the source code into machine understandable code. Okay, so that code is understood by our system. So here I will write machine understandable code. Okay, so so this compiler is very important when we are going with compiled languages. So what is the meaning of compiled language? The meaning of compiled language is that a language which cannot be directly run on a system, but needs to be compiled using a compiler and converting the code after compilation. What is the meaning of compilation? Compilation means converting source code into machine understandable code. Okay, in the machine understandable code, only zeros and ones will be there. Okay, Like this, the machine understandable code will be there. So this is the concept of compile languages. Now there are another type of language which are interpreted languages. So let me see what is happening. First let us understand this, then we'll go for what is happening with compile language. We'll try to understand some code run by compile languages, written in compile languages and written in interpreted language, what is the difference. Okay, so now next thing is we have a interpreted language. So in interpreted language, what happens is the code is not compiled like this. Here what we are doing in the compiled language, I am writing, let's say I have written one line of code. Now this is second line of code, this is third line of code. Okay, another fourth line of code is there, fifth line of code is there. So like that, total 6 lines of code are there. Now the 6 lines of code I am not able to directly run it. What I am doing, I am giving this whole 6 lines of code to compiler. Compiler is processing the whole data, and it is uh, it is processing the whole data, and it is converting the all 6 lines of code into zeros and ones or machine understandable code. Okay, after that, this machine, this, what it is called, this machine understandable code needs to be run. Okay, I don't run the source code, I run the machine understandable code in my system. Okay, then our system can run this code. Okay, these codes may be in .exe format or some .bat format, so some kind of executable format it will be, which can be run by our system. Okay, fine. Now what will happen here, here in the interpreted language, we'll write the code, we'll write some source code, right? Some source code I'm writing, let's say I wrote 3 lines of code. Okay, I wrote some 3 lines of code. Now this code, like the compiled languages, I will not pass it whole all the lines. So let me write here, this is the source code. So this code I will not pass the whole code into compiler and it will compile it and then it will give us so many zeros and ones, then I will run the code. No, no, not like that. What I will be doing here is I write the code and I directly run the code, and in the running process what will happen, in the running process compilation will be done. When I am running the code, whoever is running the code, our system is running, right? Our system, what it will do, it will take the first line and it will compile it, and then it will execute it over, then it will go to second line, it will compile it and then run it. So here something sort of this is happening, I'll tell you. Here what is happening, compile and run line by line. Okay, in interpreted languages, compile and run line by line. So I didn't give the examples of interpreted language, right? So these are Python and JavaScript. Here what is happening, in Python and JavaScript, the code is not wholly compiled at one time and then it is run. No, not like that. Line by line, the system will take one line, it will compile it, it will run it, execute it, then it will go to next line, then it will compile. So here in the compiled languages we have only one time compilation, right? The whole code is compiled at once and then it is run. But here what is happening, here one line is taken, compile, executed, next line is taken, compile, executed, then again next line, third line will be taken, compile, executed. So this is how these two things will work. Okay, so here the for the compile languages we need a third thing. Three things are needed in compile languages: source code, compiler, and a machine who will run the machine understandable code. But in Python and JavaScript interpreted language, I need only the source code and the machine. The machine will automatically take the code, it will compile and run line by line. In C, C++, Java, there is no line by line system. Whole code is compiled and run, right? So again, another plus point of these interpreted languages, that like Python, they have a plus point: we don't need a compiler, right? We don't need a compiler. We need a what, something called interpreter, that I will come to some sometime later now. Okay, we need something interpreter, but that will be inside the system only. Okay, we don't need to worry about it. And that interpreter is nothing, it is actually also a compiler, but what it is doing, it is not compiling the code all at once, it is compiling the code line by line. Okay, so that is the difference between compiled language and interpreted so the name is just like compiled and interpreted. It is not like interpreted language is not compiled. No, 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 it is compiled, but not at once, it is compiled line by line. Okay, so this way these languages will be differing. Okay, now the next question is, if both are compiled, both are doing the same thing, then where does this fast slow things come from? Okay, how it is fast and slow? One reason we already know, that in Python one line of code is not doing one thing, it is doing 100 things in the backend, that's why it is slow. But there are some other things which makes Python faster also. Okay, we'll see that now. So for that I will take a small example. Okay, I'll take a small example where we will we know now how compile language and how this thing is working, right? So let us take a small example where I'll delete all these things. Wait 1 second. Mm. So let us say that I got a paper where, treasure hunt. In movies they will show, what they will show is they got a map to a treasure, and there some instructions are written, but in very old language, we don't know what language it is, right? There some shapes are drawn, there some arrows are there. Okay, some shapes like this, and some text is also written, something. Then again some shapes are there. So like this something is written, we don't know. Now to solve this mystery, ultimately it is pointing to some treasure, right? Huh. Now to solve this mystery, I will take two approaches. I have a person who understands this whole instructions. He knows this old language. Okay. Now first I'll go with the compiled approach. In the compiled approach, what I will do is I'll give the paper whole to him. And what language do I understand? I understand only English. Right? I got this paper, but I am not able to read anything from this paper. Okay. But I got a person, I got a friend who knows this old language, and he can convert this language into English. So in the compiled approach, what will happen, I'll give this paper to him. What he will do, he will read everything, he will take some time, to read the whole page, right? Because if it is one page, if it is one line, he can give me the answer in 1 second, nah? If it is a one page, he will take some time. So when I give the paper to him, I have to wait for some time, right? Can I go to the treasure immediately after giving the paper to him? No, he has not told me in English. He's still reading. Forget about talking in English. He's still reading the instructions line by line. He's reading and he's processing. Then he's converting all the lines into English. Then he will write in one paper in English everything. Then he will give me, right? So he will write. So let's say this is the friend I have. I have given this paper to him, and this person will then give me another paper where he will write everything in English. Hmm? He will write everything in English, isn't it? Now this paper is to be taken by whom? This paper needs to be taken by me. and then I will, according to the paper which is written in English, I will go and find the treasure in that mountain, in that island, isn't it? Ha. So this is the process where this duration, we have a duration from giving the paper to him and writing in English. This duration will take some time. I cannot get the thing in immediately, so this will take some time. So I have to wait till that time he writes everything in English. It is a time taking process. That's why. So let's say he took 5 minutes to read the paper and 5 minutes to write it in English. So I have to wait now 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I will take the paper and do the things. This is what compiled languages will do. They take some extra time in between. Okay. Writing the code and executing the code, in between these two things there is some time which is known as compilation. This compilation will take some time because it will not compile one line at once. It will do read everything and then compile. Okay. Now let me go to the other approach. That is, which approach? The interpreted language approach. Okay. What will happen here? Let us see. So in the interpreted language approach, what I will do, I here also I know a person who knows all these things. So let's say here the page is filled up with 5 lines. Let me write some code here. So this is the 4th line, and we have one 5th line of code here. Okay, this is the 5th line of some language. Okay, 5 sentences are there. Now I will give this paper to a friend who knows this language, right? So this person will take this language, and what it will do, he will not now do everything. What he will do, here we can clearly see that we have, this is one line, this is the second line, this is third line of code, this is fourth, and the last star is the 5th line of code. What he will do now, in the interpreted approach, he will only read the first line and convert it and give me that first line of code in English on a paper. So this paper is having 5 lines of code. First line in English, second line in English. So he will, okay, don't no need to worry about the second line. So he will read only the first line and he will convert it into English and tell me. So this paper will be given to me. So what will happen here? I know the first instruction, na? So did it take a lot of time? Because he didn't take a lot of time. Now he has not completed reading the whole file. He wrote the first line and he directly gave it to me, that go to US. That is the first step. After going to US, you may go to Hawaii, to some island, and then you have to go to that particular mountain in cave number 36. So that is a separate thing. But first thing, I know that I need to go to US. Okay, so what I will do, I will go to US. Next, he will read the second line. There he will say, after reading that second line, he will tell me that in US, go to California. Second line, he is now reading and giving me the answer immediately. Now I will go to California. Okay. Next step, again he will say, go to street number 67. Immediately I will do it. Okay, so this way he will crack each line and tell me immediately. So ultimately what will happen, I will be doing things in a faster manner. I don't need to wait a lot of time. Yes, I need to wait, but I need to wait for only one line. I don't need the person, the friend, to read the whole page, all the files, all the lines of code, and then convert and then give me. I don't need to wait that much. He will read only first line and convert it and tell me. So this way, what will happen? I will be completing things in a step by step manner. Okay. So here again, we should not say that any one of the language is good or bad. Here we will analyze now what is good, what is bad. In the compiled language, it takes a lot of time in the compilation process. But once the paper is ready, because in the compilation phase, in the compilation part, the compiled languages were taking lot of time, right? But at the time, what he is doing, he gave me the whole paper, na, in English. Then the execution part, that is whatever I am doing, that will be very fast, isn't it? But here what is happening? Compilation is fast. In interpreted language, he is compiling only one line at a time. But my way of working is very slow. Can you see? I am waiting for the first line, and he gave me. I am doing it. Then I am doing the. Then I am waiting for the second line to be converted to English. Then I am doing it. Then I am waiting for the third line to be converted. Then I am doing it. So my working pace is slow here. Okay. But the compilation part is fast. So here, from here, what I can say is we got two things about compiled languages and interpreted languages. In compiled language, so I'll write two lines. In compiled languages, so let me write in a long line. In compiled languages, compilation is slow, but execution means completing of the task. Execution is fast because the whole information is with me, what to do, where to go, and what else is to be done, isn't it? But in interpreted language, compilation is fast because compilation is done for only one line at a time. Compilation is fast, but execution is slow. ah this is the thing. Okay, this is the main difference between compiled language and interpreted language. Now these things will matter according to our situation. In some place I don't care about the comparison speed, I just want only the execution to be fast. There I will go with compiled languages. But in some situations I don't want to wait for the compilation, I want to get the instructions fast. I don't care if my execution is slow. In that case I will go with interpreted languages. Okay, that is the main difference. Okay, so I hope I tried my best to explain the difference between Python and other languages. So this interpreted language, Python and JavaScript, are working in this manner. We don't need to install separate compiler and do all these things. We need actually, but what it does is the way of compilation is different. Okay. Okay, for JavaScript we are not installing any compiler because we are running the JavaScript code in browser, and browser itself is having the compiler. It is known as engine, JavaScript engine. And the same way for Python, we don't have anything in our system, we need to install the interpreter. Okay, interpreter and compiler, what is the difference? Compiler will compile the whole code all at once, but interpreter will compile code or interpret code line by line, only one line at a time. Okay, that's it. So that is what these things are. Now let us move on to, so now we are not going to work on compiled language, right? We'll be working on interpreted language. So let me first know how to install this Python. So installing Python is not the correct word. People say install Python, people say install Java, install this, install that. No, actually we are not installing the language. The language is just words. Can you install words? No, in words though you will be writing on your own. I will be writing with my fingers, typing on the keyboard. So I don't actually install a language. What I actually do is I install the compiler or the interpreter of that particular language actually. I don't do anything. People, even if you go to Java website or Python website, they will say install Python. That is not, we are not installing Python language. Language is inbuilt. If you know the language, I cannot install English in my system, right? I know English, so I can speak. And it, to learn language, you need to read books. I don't need to install English in my brain, isn't it? I will read books, I'll watch movies, I'll learn English. In the same way, I'll read books about Python, I'll learn Python. I don't need to install it, isn't it? So what we'll be doing is we need to install the interpreter for our Python. Now the thing, see, I wrote these three steps now. First I write the source code, then I need a compiler or interpreter, and then I need to see the output somewhere. Okay, so to write the code, I will not use a Microsoft Word or Notepad. I need some IDE.
From there
Creating
only I will be
files and
creating files and
running all those things.
running.
Hello,
Hello,
Pawan.
Pawan.
Do you want to ask something?
No, no, no.
Okay, okay. So we need the interpreter as well as the code editor. Without the code editor, I cannot see. I can do, but I don't want to write in Notepad. In Notepad, it will be so difficult for me. Or else, if I go with Microsoft Word again, it will be difficult. The lines, how do I manage the lines? Is there any error? Who will tell me? So these things, this Notepad or Microsoft Word will not tell me, isn't it? So I need a code editor. So you can go through any code editor. You just Google IDE for Python. If you type like this, you will get a lot of things. You see idle, PyCharm, okay, Spider, Visual Studio, so many are there. So I am already working with Visual Studio Code, so I can go with Visual Studio Code. So for that, what you need to do, you just uh, type Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio Code. It is known as VS Code. So this is provided by Microsoft, and you can download for Windows. That's it. Download and install it. It is over. Nothing more. And it is totally free. Some IDs are paid. Okay, some IDs will be there. I'm not remembering the names, but those will be paid. So many problems will be there. So you can go with this one or Sublime Text. That is also totally free, and no, you won't face any problem working with Python. Okay, okay. Remaining is only the typing. For typing, you don't need any separate setup. Okay, once you install it, you don't need to run this Visual Studio Code. You don't need to do anything. Run it, install it, over. You don't need to open that code. So what I will be doing is, I need to create a folder. Here what I have done, I have created a folder called a pb1. Inside this pb1, nothing is there. Here I have to create a file and start writing. After writing the code, I need to run the code. I have to give this code to a compiler or an interpreter. This interpreter I don't have in my system, let's say. So what I have to do, I have to install the interpreter. So where I can install it, I have two options. For Windows, I have two options. Main option is going to python.org. If I go to python.org, so this is the solution for any system. I may be using Windows, I may be using Mac, I may be using Linux, anything. You just go to python.org, click on downloads, and here download Python 3.12.2 is there. You download it, install it, over. You have the interpreter in your system. That means if you download and install it. Okay, so by downloading and installing, we are not downloading Python. What we are downloading, we are downloading the interpreter, because I may not have it in my system. Okay, fine. So this is one way, or else we have another way. For my so this option is the universal. This can be used by anyone. Okay, for Windows users, you can also go for something like, we have Microsoft Store, right? Microsoft Store is there. In the store, in the store when you go to Microsoft Store, there also you will get the option. So let me write here Python. If I type a Python, you will see so many things are coming. So what is written here? Python 3.11 interpreter and a runtime. Runtime means environment. Okay, so this way you will get so many interpreters. You download any one of them. So here it is shown installed. Which one? 3.12 is installed in my system. That's why it is not showing. Otherwise, you can click on it and click on the get button. Get button will automatically install it in your system. Once VS Code is installed, interpreter is installed, you don't need to worry about anything. And installation process is not anything tough. Just next, next, next. At last, click on install, over. You don't need to worry about anything. And I'm assuring you, I'm guaranteeing you, after installing these two applications, you don't need to open those applications also. Okay, because here what I will be doing, what flow I have shown in the beginning, I will always write my code in a file. Okay, after downloading this interpreter, you can write your code in the interpreter also, but that is not a recommended way to write Python. What will happen if you write your code in that interpreter? So I have the interpreter. Let me show you. After the interpreter is installed, I have something. Okay, this is Python 3 point let me go to Python 3.12. In the 3.12 I have this interpreter. Here I can write code like 1 plus 2 is giving me 3. We can see the output, right? 1 plus 2 is giving me 3. And we can do lot of coding like x equal to 10, hmm? Then uh, y equal to 3. And if I write x plus y and press enter, it is giving me 13, right? We are able to run our Python code here. But the moment I close this interpreter, the code is gone, isn't it? That's why I will never recommend you to run your code in a interpreter. In an interpreter, what happens is, it is 100% sure you can run your code, but your code will be lost. We don't have you have not stored your code. So that's why I recommend you to write the code in a file. So for that, what we are doing, we have already installed Visual Studio Code. Using Visual Studio Code, we will create a file and run the code there, so that code will not be lost. The file will be saved, right? Okay, so let me close all these things. After doing the installation, what I will do is, as I told you, just create a new folder, pb1, or anything your wish, my folder, some folder you create, and open the file. Once you open the file, you have this address bar. I'm talking about Windows. Okay, in Mac it will be different. You just right click and open terminal. Here option will be there. Okay, for Windows, what I do is I go to this address bar and type cmd. Cmd means command prompt. I open the command prompt here, and I want to see, I don't want to create a file and write the text manually. What I want to do, I want to do all this: creating the file, writing the code, and running the code. I want to do everything using the IDE or the code editor which I have installed, which is Visual Studio Code. I want to do it because these IDEs are so powerful, they can do all these things. They can write the code, they can compile the code, and they can see the output also. Okay, so what I will do, after typing cmd, I will show it once again. Go to the address bar, type cmd, press enter. It will open one black window. This is known as command prompt. In the command prompt, I will type code space dot. This space dot is important. Code space dot. If I press enter now, it will open Visual Studio Code in this folder. Okay, I press enter. I got Visual Studio Code opened. That code editor is open. And on the left hand side, this side panel, I can see everything is empty. Nothing is there. That means no files are there. I can see from this folder, no files are there. That's why what I'm getting in the Visual Studio Code, this blue symbol is the Visual Studio Code. Here I can see nothing is there. Here we have some options. What is this? New file, new folder, refresh, collapse, like that. So I'll create a new file here. Let me name it as 1.py. What is that? A .py? .py means it is a Python file. If you are working on C++, it will be a .cpp. Java file, .java. So like that, all languages will have different uh what it is called, extensions, file extensions. Okay, 1.py and press enter. You will see the Python logo has also come here. The Visual Studio Code, my code editor is able to recognize that this is Python file. Okay, fine. And I have already shown you the Python interpreter. In the interpreter we can run code, fine. But
Sorry to
the
interrupt. Can you please show it again? So connection was lost in between. After that
which part?
CMD. After that
After
CMD.
the CMD. Okay, okay, I'll close
Yes.
this. Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yes.
So this is the folder, so I'll delete this file as well. This is the empty folder. I just created one empty folder in my system, and I type here cmd and press enter. Okay, this will open a black screen, that is the command prompt. In the command prompt I type code space dot, code space dot. This space dot is important. The meaning of this code space dot is I want to open the Visual Studio Code for this folder. So I press enter and it opens the VS Code window. Here I can see on the left hand side nothing is there. It is blank. That means no files are created inside this. So the next thing what I need to do is I need to create a file. So here we have a new file option, new folder option. If you want to create new folder, you can create a new folder, no problem. If you want directly a file, you can create a file. If you want to create a file inside new folder, you create new folder first, then inside that new folder you create new file. It is your wish. So I'll go with the new file directly. I name a file, something name you give, 1 2 3, your wish. You, if you want a my file, you name it as my file. If you name it as abc, if you want to name it as abc, name it as abc. But .py must be there at the end, because .py is the extension of the file, and it tells us that it is a Python file. And press enter. So now the file is created, Python logo is there, and the file is empty, nothing is written here. So that this means that Visual Studio Code is telling me that your Python file is ready. You can now start writing code in Python and you can run the code. Okay, okay, fine. Now we don't need to worry about the compilation or the interpretation. Why? Because we have already installed the interpreter. It is there and it will be able to run this code. How to run this code we'll see. But before that I need to write some code. Okay. So now in this session I will not do too much. I will now run some basic code and see the output and end the session. How to see the output? We have to use the interpreter. How to use the interpreter I will show, and I'll end the session for today. Tomorrow we'll see some more new concepts. Okay, fine. Now let me run some write some code. But how to write Python code? How to write code in Python? We don't know that. So as I wrote in the interpreter, what I wrote in the interpreter, when I wrote 1 plus 2 and I wanted to see the output, it was giving me the output. But here what will happen if I save this code and run this code? I will not see the output, because to see the output we need to print it in the output, otherwise I will not get it. Okay, the interpreter is something different. Interpreter is like I'm asking something, he is giving me the result. Okay, but here it will not work like that. Here I have to get the output, or I have to tell that please print the output. Okay, so let me have something like I will write print 1 plus 2. When I say print 1 plus 2, this if by using this print function, this is a print function, print 1 plus 2, when I write inside parenthesis, it is I'm telling Python to print the value of 1 plus 2. What is the value of 1 plus 2? 3. So I want to get 3 in the output. So now directly running this file will not give us the output, because we can see here there is a dot here. Here we have a dot. Can you see? This dot tells us that the file is not saved. After writing the file, some things in the file, writing the code, I have to press Control S. So now the dot has gone. Control S means I have saved the file. Now I have to run this code using the interpreter. Now here I need to open a terminal. Just like the command prompt I opened in that folder, I need to open a terminal in this VS Code as well. How to open that? I'll press Ctrl plus J. So now some terminal has come. Ctrl plus J, and it is inside PB1 folder, and it is showing e drive edupoly pb1. Okay, now I have to write some command to tell the interpreter to run this file. Which file? What is the name of the file? 1.py. To I have to tell the Python interpreter to run 1.py file. What this interpreter will do? It will take this file, it will compile the code line by line. How many lines are there? Only one line. It will interpret the line and it will give us the output. Give us the output. So it will convert this into machine understandable code and it will run the machine understandable code as well. It will do so many things in one step. So to now I need to call the interpreter. I have to call, please interpreter come and run this code. So to call the interpreter I have a shortcut called py. Okay, I can call the interpreter in so many names, just like we have nicknames. Someone may call you Sai, someone may call you Babu, someone may call you Sai Babu, right? So I have so many nicknames to call this interpreter. This interpreter is having so many nicknames. Well, the full name of the interpreter is Python 3.12. If I write this code, I am calling Python 3.12. I am calling it with full name. Then I can write only Python as well. That is also, that will also call him. Or else if I don't want to write this also, I go with py only. Py is enough. When I call py, it is going a call to Python interpreter only. Okay. So now I write py space. Now I have to tell the interpreter which file I want to run. What is the name of the file? 1.py. Py space 1.py. If I run this code now, by writing this line, I am telling the Python interpreter, please run the 1.py file. So it will compile it and it will run it. So I press enter. What did I get in the output? 3. I got the output what I wanted. So it is, I told please print 1 plus 2. It gave me 3. And immediately code is over. File is over. If I change something in the file, again I have to run the py1.py again. Okay. So let me now run some other code. I wrote something there. Do you remember in the interpreter? X equal to 10 and y equal to 3. Right? Now I want to print the addition of 10 and 3. So what do I write? Print what? Print x plus y. Isn't it? So x is having 10, y is having 3. We will discuss about this. So when I put my mouse on x, it is saying it is a variable. We'll discuss about variables in the next class, but I just want to show you how this how to run the code. That's it. Okay, I am taking a variable, I'm storing 10 into x, and I'm taking another variable y where I'm storing 3, and I'm printing the x plus y. X plus y means 10 plus 3. So now if I run this code directly, I will get the old output 3 because I have not saved the file. So I have to save the file by using Control S. Then I have to run py1.py again. So now I am getting the 13. So if you don't save it, you will get the old file output. Okay, fine. So this is how we run the code. And we have to remember one thing, that it is always better to create files and run the code using interpreter, not directly in the interpreter. Directly in the interpreter, what will happen? You will get the output, but your files or code will not be saved. It will be deleted once you close the interpreter. Okay, and we have already seen how to create a file, how to use the IDE or the VS Code or the code editor to create the file, write code into the file, and run the code. Right? This is what I wanted to discuss today. So tomorrow we'll be learning about variables, data types, and many things. Okay, that's it. I hope Pawan, you understood what I wanted to speak today.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, that's it. That's it for
Uh,
this session.
I have one question over here. When we are running this through interpreter right now, let's say